Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining here, Unapologetically Progressive. Once again, I am back with another video. This time we're going to talk about Governor Gavin Newsom of California. Now, there's been a lot of talk about whether or not the trans community is going to support him in 2028, whether they should even consider him for a candidate in 2028. I know myself, I will not be supporting him in the 2028 primaries. I'm not really sure exactly about the general at this point, but I know I will not be supporting him in the 2028 primaries, most likely. And it's because of things he has done recently. Over the last few months, he has cozied up to far-right anti-trans bigots. He's, you know, yesterday he vetoed a bill that would have been very helpful to the transgender population of California, as well as other people in the state that are not transgender. And we're going to get into that. But recently, like I said, he cozied up to like Charlie Kirk and people like that, and sat there parroting their anti-trans talking points about trans women in sports, for example, or trans girls in sports, saying it's just absolutely unfair that they all have an advantage over cisgender women. But no, they don't. Now, immediately, like before they go on HRT, or if they haven't been on puberty blockers, yeah, they might for a short time while they first start hormone treatment, right? Like the swimmer in Pennsylvania, I forget the name at this point, but they transitioned. But while they were transitioning, they swam on the men's team until they could no longer do that, right? But while they were transitioning, they swam on the men's team, and their abilities went down and down and down while they were on hormone replacement therapy and testosterone blockers or suppressants, right? Scientists have shown in multiple studies now, I've seen at least 2 studies that have both been peer reviewed, showing that after 2 to 3 years, that, for example, a transgender woman has no biological or physical advantage over a cisgender woman if they've been on HRT and testosterone suppressant for 3 years. But that's not what he's talking about. He's ignoring the science and supporting these bigots. Now, yesterday, he signed a bill, or vetoed a bill. But first, we'll talk about the bills he passed, right? Um, let's see. According to Aaron in the morning, one measure shielded the medical records of transgender youth care providers from out-of-state subpoenas. Another streamlined the process for transgender people to get their names and gender markers changed on their state IDs and stuff. He also signed legislation making it easier for queer couples to adopt, protected clients from violent threat or clinics from violent threats, and ensured privacy for those undergoing legal gender changes, right? And that's great, right? That's awesome. But the problem is the bill he vetoed. Now, I'm not saying this man is just a complete terrible person. I just don't trust him right now because of his cozying up to bigots and the things he's done and said about the trans community, right? But the bill he vetoed had massive support in the California legislature. Um, it had 60 votes for it, 18 against it in the California Assembly, 29 votes for, and 10 votes against it in the California Senate. So this was widely popular among the people in the state legislature there in California. So why wouldn't he pass it? Now let's talk about what this bill was. Senate Bill 418 would have allowed for 1-year prescriptions for HRT because of what's going on in the rest of the country. With the Trump administration, they wanted to try to provide a way for transgender people and other people on HRT to have a stable supply no matter what happens over the next year with Donald Trump and the Trump administration. all the way going into 2026. Right? That's what this was passed for, to try to give a stopgap protection to the transgender community in California when it came to getting their HRT. And for some people with their HRT, if they get on it and they don't want to be taken off of it, right? And you definitely don't want to just randomly pull someone off of hormones like that. You don't want to randomly just, they have they have these other hormones, and now all of a sudden you pull them off. It's like somebody that's on using steroids for a treatment. If you notice those steroid treatments for, like, allergy breakouts and things like that, you notice they have a higher dose and it tapers off because it's not a medication that you need to take and then just pull yourself off of. HRT is much the same thing. It's much the reason why I didn't seek hormone treatment when I went last December to the doctor and finally talked to somebody about being transgender. I didn't want to start and then feel like I'm in the right, and some reason, maybe feel like I'm actually finally in the right place, and then have it ripped away from me, which I would have had done here in Oklahoma. And that's what this bill was supposed to prevent, right? According to Aaron in the morning, a similar bill, almost identical bill, was passed in Washington State, even with, I believe, 8 Republicans joining in the final passage of that law, right? Because a Republican, according to Aaron in the morning, stood up and talked about their child needing HRT, not because they were transgender, but because of another medical condition. And the stability would make it easier for them to take care of their daughter. Right? So multiple Republicans joined that congressman or that state representative in Washington State to make sure it passed. Because some people might think, oh, this is just for transgender people. We don't care. The thing is, HRT is not something that just transgender people use. HRT is used by menopausal women and other people with different medical situations. I've even read, certain situations require men to be able to either suppress their testosterone or to be able to, increase their estrogen for whatever reason. There are medical reasons out there for these things. And I don't think the government should be telling people that they can or can't have their medication. But this would have been protection. Would have been protection for those people that are transgender in the state of California. And he blamed cost overruns, that it would increase people's premiums. The thing is, the increases to premiums would be negligible at best. Why? Because hormone replacement therapy is some of the cheapest medications that insurances can provide. Among the cheapest. They don't cost that much. That's the reason when the military first started, they started allowing, transgender people in the military and all that stuff. That was kind of where they were worried at first. They were worried that covering that cost would be astronomical and cost a lot extra to the military budget and to the medical budget for the military. They did a research study on it and found out that it almost didn't affect the bottom line at all. Right? This would literally be an increase of like what? 0.1%? Because the cost from gender affirming care is relatively cheap if you have insurance to cover it. Right? Like, she goes on here and discusses the cost for it, right? Let me see if I can find it here in her article. But first I'll read Newsom's thing. I am concerned about the limitization on the use of utilization management, which is an important tool to ensure enrollees receive the right care at the right time. Prohibiting this cost containment strategy is likely to result in increase in enrollee premiums to offset the cost incurred by health plans and insurers. According to Aaron in the morning, it's a familiar refrain, one often used to justify limiting transgender healthcare access and more broadly restricting medication supplies and medications that could shield all medical patients from systemic instability. And she's not wrong. Aaron is absolutely dead on that one. That is something used over and over again by the conservatives and others to just limit care, and they use cost as an excuse. But when they go off, when this gets banned at a federal level or something, or they make it more difficult for trans people to get their care, you're going to have other costs on your hands, Mr. Newsom, right? You're going to have other problems with people, with insurance prices going up and things like that. But you're also going to have this stain on your record as being anti-trans, whether you mean to be or not. Now, she goes on here and talks about the Washington HB 1971 that passed earlier this year. The measure, like California's SB 418, allows patients to reach 12-month refills of prescribed hormone therapy. It went on to say, it's what I was telling you earlier, during debate, one Republican legislator defended the bill by citing his daughter's reliance on hormone medication after pituitary cancer, arguing that long-term refills protect patients who depend on stable access, right? And down here at the bottom, I'm going to read you her last statement, then I'll give you the rest of my thoughts on this. Newsom's veto is a stark reminder that California is no longer the unquestioned leader on transgender rights that many people once believed it to be. In recent months, the governor has courted conservative influencers, echoed anti-trans talking points, even as state agencies under his watch have quietly looked the other way while clinics drop transgender youth from care in what amounts to a mass capitulation to the Trump administration. California may still pass progressive legislation, but leadership is not measured by symbolic gestures. It's measured by the courage to act when it matters most. And when it came to the bill that could have made a more tangible difference for transgender people this year, Gavin Newsom failed that test. Be sure to check out Aaron in the Morning's Substack and stuff. Aaron Reed is an awesome person. Does a lot of good reporting, especially on transgender issues, and I think you should be following Aaron. But that's really what it comes down to, right? Is he a progressive? No, I don't think he is. I don't think he is a progressive. Because what I see right now is him doing the bottom line of what you could do, like the smallest amount of what he could do to support the LGBTQ community. Now, is he out there actively attacking the trans community and the LGBTQ community in general? No, he's not like Governor Hot Wheels in Texas and Governor Governor Don't Say Gay down in Florida, right? He's not. He's not that. He is not that bad yet. And that's my concern. If he gets in office in 2028 by courting the LGBTQ community, act like he's some great savior to the cause, what's he going to do when he takes office? Because remember when Donald Trump took office, when he won that election, that night he held up a pride flag and said he would be the best president ever for LGBTQ rights. Then immediately upon taking office, he banned transgender people from the military. Told the Supreme Court that he thought it was okay for gay people to be um, fired from their jobs just because they were gay, right? And I'm scared that's what's going to happen with Gavin Newsom. I'm definitely afraid of that. But the fact is, I'm not going to sit here and tell you not to do your research into the man. I'm not going to tell you to listen to me. I'm not going to tell you to make your opinions based on what I tell you, right? I want you to look for yourself and then make the decision on your own. I know right now I will not be supporting Gavin Newsom in the 2028 election. And he could have shored up my support yesterday by signing that bill. Because, yeah, he's doing the bare minimum, but he's not doing anything to help. Like, yes, being able to change gender markers and stuff, that's great. Being able to adopt, that's great. But for transgender women and transgender men, that hormone therapy can be life-saving. It can be life-affirming and life-saving at the same time. Because a lot of people, when they get on HRT, they realize that they're happy for the first time ever, that they're finally happy in their body. And if you go on HRT and then you have it taken away, then it comes back, then taken away, that's terrible for your body. It's like a lot of medications that they taper you off of, right? And with the Trump administration going the direction they are, anything that could possibly prevent people from losing access to their HRT medications is important. The fact is, the cost, they're minuscule compared to the overall California medical budget and to what insurers pay for these medications. Also, what's the difference monetarily between a 1-year subscription and a 3-month subscription? Think about it. You end up paying the same price. Sometimes it's even lower of a price when you buy in bulk. But think about it. Every 3 months, or say you pay for a medication every 3 months. Say that 3-month stash is $300. Whether insurance covers or you cover out of pocket, $300. And then 3 months later, $300. 3 months later, $300. 3 months later, $300. Right? You with me? So instead of 3 months, you take that total cost of 300 times or $300 per quarter, and you do it one time, it's the same cost. $1,200 for the year, right? At least I believe that's what that number would be. So either way you go, the insurers and the state and all that, and the people that pay for these medications are still going to have to pay that full amount. But what I'll say here is that I believe Gavin Newsom has the ability to be a good leader. I believe he chose not to be. And the reason I believe he did this is because he feels that cozying up to these right-wingers, much like Cenk Uygur over at TYT now, somehow benefits him down the road. All right, somehow he thinks buttering up to these people is going to get their support in 2028. Okay, but here's the thing. People on the far right are never going to support you, Gavin Newsom. Right? But you seem to think this is the expedient way to the White House, is to, in a way, throw transgender people under the bus. And I don't understand that. I really don't. Transgender people have never done anything to anyone in this country. Really, as a community, we just want to live our life. We just want to be. That's it. That's all we want. That is the trans agenda in a nutshell. To exist and be happy in our own bodies. That's all we want. That's all we've ever wanted. So keep that in mind when you think about voting for Gavin Newsom. Now, I understand in the general election, if he's the winner of the Democratic primary, that we may have to hold our nose and vote. Because on the opposite side of that, you're not going to like that. Because the other side of it's going to be J.D. Vance or a Trump kid or Donald Trump trying to run again. Right? And I don't think we want that. Anyways, thank you for watching. I'm sorry this video drug on for a bit. If you made it this far, please hit that like and subscribe button down below. And please leave a comment. Thank you.